In May of 2022, a young man named Aaron Cody Fortner stepped into the pages of one of North Carolina's most haunting unsolved mysteries. His story begins, like many others, with an ordinary life set against the backdrop of small-town America. Yet his sudden and unexplained disappearance has left family, friends, and an entire community grappling with questions that have not been answered, even years later. This is the story of Aaron, his life, the events leading up to that fateful day, and the unending search for truth. Aaron Cody Fortner was born on September 29, 1996, and by all accounts he was a vibrant, caring, and dependable young man. At 25 years old in 2022, he was described as adventurous, outdoors-oriented, and deeply connected to those around him. He was not someone who faded into the background of his community. Instead, he carried a presence that was warm and trustworthy. Friends noted his sense of humor, his ability to make others feel comfortable, and his steady loyalty to those he loved. Family members consistently emphasized how dependable he was, how he would check in regularly, and how he was known for following through on his commitments. For a family living in the mountains of North Carolina, this was someone who was woven tightly into their daily lives. He lived in Sylva, North Carolina, within Jackson County, an area surrounded by the natural beauty of the Appalachian Mountains. The setting of his life cannot be overlooked, because it played a role in both who he was and in how the events surrounding his disappearance unfolded. Sylva is a small town known for its charm, its courthouse perched on a hill, and its proximity to trails, forests, and overlooks that attract both locals and visitors alike. The mountains are a place of wonder, but they are also a place of mystery. They can provide solitude and peace, but also a landscape of danger and concealment. For someone like Aaron, who loved to hike and spend time outdoors, the mountains were home. But it was also near these mountains, particularly near Cowee Mountain Overlook along the Blue Ridge Parkway, where the story took a tragic turn. Aaron was staying in a camper on property owned by his grandparents. His life at that moment was not unusual. Many young adults in rural North Carolina live with or near family, close to their roots. His camper was set up in a location where he could enjoy his independence while still being close to those he loved. It is important to picture this setting. A modest camper, parked in a rural area, with the Appalachian foothills just beyond. These are the sorts of details that illustrate how grounded Aaron was, and why his sudden disappearance felt so shocking. He was not a drifter, not someone disconnected. He was, instead, someone firmly embedded in his community. The evening of May 5, 2022, began like any other. There is no record of anything unusual in the hours leading up to the events that would follow. Yet sometime that evening, a series of unusual occurrences began that still perplex investigators and family alike. The most significant pieces of evidence come from his final phone calls and from the discovery of his vehicle. The details of these events form the foundation of the mystery. Aaron's car was later discovered abandoned near the Cowee Mountain Overlook along the Blue Ridge Parkway. This overlook is known for its scenic views of the mountains, a place where travelers stop to take photos or simply absorb the natural beauty. Yet for Aaron's family, it became a place of dread. Inside his vehicle, authorities found his phone, his wallet, and other belongings. These were not items someone intending to walk away would leave behind. When personal effects like a phone and wallet are left inside a vehicle, the immediate conclusion many reach is that the person never intended to be gone for long, or that something prevented them from returning. For his loved ones, this single detail was chilling. Adding to the mystery were reports of strange phone calls. In these final calls, Aaron sounded confused, disoriented, and deeply troubled. He said he did not know where he was. He mentioned that he felt as though people were watching him. He asked for help moving his camper. These calls were out of character, alarming, and unlike anything his family had ever heard from him. For a man described as dependable and grounded, the sudden shift to fear, confusion, and urgency raised immediate red flags. His family knew in their hearts that something was wrong. This was not the voice of someone staging a disappearance, and it was not the voice of someone simply leaving voluntarily. When the car was discovered with his belongings inside, and when no trace of him could be found nearby, his family's worst fears were realized. From the very first day, they insisted that something beyond ordinary had occurred. They did not believe Aaron had simply decided to vanish. He was not the type to walk away from responsibilities, from family, or from life itself. The investigation began with urgency. Local law enforcement, joined by the National Park Service and eventually volunteers from the community, organized search efforts. The Blue Ridge Parkway area is vast, filled with thick forests, steep slopes, and remote terrain. Ground searches were conducted, with teams fanning out across the wooded mountainsides. Search dogs were brought in to track scent, and helicopters were deployed to scan from above. Yet despite these exhaustive efforts, no confirmed sightings or trace of Aaron were uncovered. It was as though he had vanished into thin air. For his family, the lack of physical evidence was agonizing. The belongings inside the car suggested he did not intend to leave, but the absence of any other sign created a void that was impossible to explain. Each day that passed without answers deepened the family's concern and their determination to push for more action. They sought help from advocacy organizations, reaching out to missing person groups and connecting with journalists and podcasters who could help keep the story alive. The case was eventually featured on the Vanished podcast, a nationally recognized show that gave Aaron's story attention far beyond North Carolina. With that coverage came renewed awareness, but still no solid leads. Community response was strong, with vigils held, posters distributed, and social media campaigns launched. People across Franklin, Silva, and surrounding counties expressed frustration that Aaron's case was not being treated with the same national coverage that other disappearances often receive. His story resonated because he was one of their own, a young man from the mountains, a neighbor, a friend, a family member. Each candlelight vigil was both a plea for answers and a declaration that Aaron would not be forgotten. As weeks turned into months and months into years, the absence of new evidence has weighed heavily on everyone connected to the case. Law enforcement continues to list him as a missing person, urging the public to come forward with any information. As of 2025, 3 years later, Aaron Cody Fortner remains missing. His family has never stopped searching for answers. They've never stopped holding events, speaking to reporters, and keeping his name in the public eye. Every birthday, every anniversary of his disappearance is a painful reminder of how much remains unknown. The geography of where he disappeared cannot be ignored. The Appalachian Mountains have long been a place of both beauty and mystery. People travel to the Blue Ridge Parkway to find peace. Yet its vastness also provides cover for those who may wish to vanish, or for those whose disappearance was not by choice. The mountains hold secrets in their forests, and for Aaron's family, the hope remains that someone, somewhere, knows something that could bring resolution. As of today, the case has not led to any arrests. There has been no announcement of a reward fund specifically tied to information in Aaron's case. Still, his family continues to push for answers, relying on the strength of community and the power of awareness. Their efforts ensure that Aaron's story will not fade. Each interview, each news article, each podcast appearance is part of their ongoing mission to bring him home, one way or another. And so the questions linger. What happened to Aaron Cody Fortner on that May evening in 2022? Did he encounter someone with ill intentions? Was his disoriented state a sign of fear, illness, or outside influence? Why were his belongings left inside his car at the Overlook, a place where he should have been safe among tourists and travelers? Why has no trace been found despite such extensive searching? Each theory leads to more questions, and each unanswered question keeps the case alive. Aaron's disappearance reminds us of how fragile life can be, how quickly an ordinary evening can shift into tragedy, and how families can be left in endless uncertainty. His story is not just about a missing person. It is about a community grappling with loss, about the persistence of hope, and about the enduring need for answers. For those who knew him, Aaron's absence is not defined by statistics or reports. It is defined by empty seats at family gatherings, by phone calls that will never come, by the silence where once there was laughter and conversation. It is defined by a community that continues to light candles, post flyers, and ask questions, even when time passes without response. Aaron Cody Fortner's story is unfinished. His family and his community hold on to the belief that someday, somehow, the truth will come to light. Until then, his name will be spoken, his memory honored, and his case kept alive in the public's consciousness. And perhaps, with time, persistence, and the right piece of information, the answers they seek will finally be found. Thank you for watching Fatal Secrets of True Crime. Subscribe for more stories like this. Real crimes, hidden truths, and the secrets they tried to bury. Your support helps keep these stories alive and the pressure on for answers. Till next time, remember, every secret eventually comes to light.